the wildfires in Maui, why it's happening, the possible lockdowns, and also Trump and the indictments and what's to come and what's really going on from a military perspective. What legislations are signed and where we're at. And is this really staged? Is it for people to wake up? Now, just before we begin, you can subscribe to my Instagram channel at nicholas.veniamin, where you can follow all my news flash reels, which I'll be leaving below in the description. Derek, thank you for joining me, sir. How are you and what have you been up to?
Oh, well, I'm just down in the south of the United States. So I'm down here in the country, as you can tell. I've got what they call hunting cabins out here, and there's a bunch of bugs flying around. So if you see me swatting, then you'll know why. But other than that, I've just been doing a lot of songwriting, getting ready to record a new album and go in the studio and do all that. So just been trying to juggle the political part and juggle this music in between. So
that's good.
So, yeah.
So you've been in the military, you're ex-military, so you understand all of these things. And I just want to let the viewers know that you're also a musician, and I've been listening to your country music. It sounds great. Do you just really want to tell quickly people where they can follow you to listen to your music before we get into the military stuff?
Oh, yeah. You can find me on DerekJohnsonCountry.com, and that will show all the links to go over to Spotify, because there is another Derek Johnson out there, and he's getting a lot of great publicity off of this, which is cool. I've actually got to talk to him, and I apologize to him because he's a Christian artist and he does Christian music. And I was like, hey, I guess you're getting a lot of publicity though, but I'm sorry if there's something about a bar that you get tagged in and things like that. So I like to joke with him a little bit, but yeah, so DerekJohnsonCountry.com will show all the places to find me. But if it's someone who's going straight to Spotify or going straight to Apple or iTunes, whatever they're using, then you'll have to look up, you'll have to make sure that the picture shows a ball cap or a cowboy hat, because he don't wear any caps or hats. So that's how you differentiate us.
Wow, amazing. Well, thank you very much for that. Now, on to what I want to ask you is a lot of people. Now, we've heard you and you've spoken about, the white hats are in charge. There's a plan to take the deep state. It's a big 5-dimensional chess game. There's lots of activities going on with military activity in respect to transferring people over to Gitmo. I see on your Twitter where you share screenshots of airplanes, military airplanes, Gitmo, people being arrested undercover behind the scenes. And I'm excited about that. I'm really excited. I enjoy all the information, and I like to know that there is an undercover plan going on. I also understand that there are optics being played in order for people to see how corrupt the deep state is, and also for them to wake up on their own, because obviously you can't tell them, you have to show them. If you tell them, they won't believe us. So they have to experience it the same way me and you have somewhat experienced it. Now, why, if there's a real plan going on behind the scenes, is there a war still going on? Because I don't understand why there are wildfires happening, like Maui in Lahaina, for an example, and it's destroying people's homes. It's causing chaos. It's inconveniencing people. It's dangerous. What do you have to say about that?
Well, those are always your, I was just talking about this other day, SG and I, we were talking about this on a show where we were trying to explain that, things to do with warfare are never fun to talk about, because you get into a lot of obviously sensitive subjects. And that is a very sensitive subject, because this isn't a traditional kind of war where people have always grown up around. I mean, every single one of us listening, you have, no matter where you live and what country you're in, you've always heard about the United States going in here, the United States going in here, and certain countries going in here. Well, most of those wars were corporate wars. They were create a problem we already have a solution to. So it'd be like these woods right behind me. It'd be like me setting them on fire and then getting on a TV show or getting on some, oh, hey, send me money, send us money, and da-da-da-da-da. But we already have fire trucks over here that you can't see my hands. Here's my hands. Here's the fire trucks over here. So you can't see them. You don't see them waiting to come in and put the fire out. We already have it under control. right? So there's a lot of that has happened throughout our lifetime. And so it's hard for people to wrap their minds around unless they understand special warfare, special operations, things of that nature. Now, you know, you don't have to be a veteran to know that. You just have to know laws, orders, legislation, and then also a little bit about military to pair that in. So while people think there's a secret operation going on, it's very, very public. What people struggle with is that they have gone off the things they heard their grandpa say or their grandma say or their cousins say and their daddy say, and they go off that. So before we get to Maui and that topic, how you look at that is you go to the War Powers Resolution Act. Now I hear people in conversation go, it's Congress who declares war. No, the Constitution does say that Congress is the one who declares war, but it also says in the Constitution that the Congress was supposed to set forth the rules and the regulations of the Army and the Navy. Well, that's happened throughout our history in the United States. And the first War Powers Act and the second War Powers Act came in 1941. So that's a year before my dad was even born. So my dad will be 81 in September. So that was 82 years ago. Then it was amended in 1973. Well, that's 50 years ago. That's older than me. So that last act, the War Powers Resolution Act, is where Congress and the president can declare war. Now, what people need to realize out there when I say that is, like, I'm not saying you got to like it. I'm just telling you by United States legislation, that is how and where the president can also declare war. Now, it is a national defense thing. When you go to 50 United States Code, which is titled War and National Defense, it don't say War and International Defense. It says War and National Defense. So 50 U.S. Code Chapter 33, Section 1541 through 1550 is the War Powers Resolution Act. All right. So when you go to that act currently, right now, anybody who's listening, when you get off of this show, you can go over to Google and type in 50 U.S. Code or United States Code 1550. That is the last amended section of the War Powers Resolution Act. But in the executive documents below there, it has a memorandum from 2021 in there from Joe Biden. All right. It specifically reads, now this would be exciting for everybody because everybody wants to know, where do you absolutely prove that we're in a military occupancy, we're in a war? This is it. That memorandum in 2021, when it reads like this. It says, I hereby delegate the Secretary of Defense the authority and the functions vested in the President of Section 1550. The use of military force and joint partner forces. Now, when you scroll up to Section 1550, that's the last amended portion. It's titled Use of Military Force and Joint Partner Forces. Well, guess what the date of that is? December the 20th, 2019. Well, who was the president December the 20th, 2019? That is the foundational order. Now, all other orders under that, like military orders, come from the top down, and they work their way down. And certain batteries and certain brigades and certain battalions, they have orders that they all fulfill on their own, because the unit that I was with in the military won't be doing what the 82nd Airborne's doing. My unit won't be doing what the 101st Airborne's doing. My unit will be given an order, and every unit's given an order from this foundational order. So there's a foundational order, and there's an order here, and an order here, and an order here, and it goes all the way down to depending on what certain units are doing. But the foundational order that applies to everybody, that can prove everything, is in that Section 1550, dated December the 20th, 2019. And it specifically says 180 days after the president has to do a certain thing. It was a report to the defense committees. Well, in that first 180 days, Donald John Trump, by definition, in United States law and military law, became a wartime president in March 2020. So if you add 180 days after December, it was I just drew my blank. December the 2019, 180 days would put you to June 17, 2020. So in March 2020, that was in between that 180 days. Donald Trump federalized 1 million reserve components to active duty. The only person who can federalize National Guard and reserve components, they're all the same, but reserve are even guys who don't even do a weekend a month. All right, they do a little bit different. But reserve components, and there's also reserves who get out of the military, who they what we call got out regular, they didn't retire out. They have a reserve component attached to them. So you may sign up for 4 years and do your 4 years and get done, but you have an 8-year clause in there for reserve duty. Okay. So if you got called back, you signed up for that. So that's why they tell guys to stay in shape. So that reserve clause covers a lot of people. So that was a direct military order. And he put it in a federal order, Executive Order 13912. Now, there's one of those orders that's up under the order, right? And there's a bunch of orders under that, and there's a bunch of orders that's had to come out since then under a continuity government. So Biden may look like he's doing something to the average home viewer out there, but Biden just signed an executive order July 13th, 2023, that said he was sending 3,000 reserve troops to Europe, and he was delegating the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of Homeland Security. No, that's an order under the order. You got to go to the foundational order, and that foundational order says Donald Trump is in charge. And here's how. When it says, I hereby delegate the Secretary of Defense, guess who the Secretary of Defense is directly under? The Commander-in-Chief, because it's a military rank. All right, so he's directly under the Commander-in-Chief. You can't have two Commander-in-Chiefs. You wouldn't have two Commander-in-Chiefs. There's one Commander-in-Chief, and then you have generals up under him. Then you have full bird colonels under them. Then you have lieutenant colonel. It's a rank structure. It's a military structure. So that order is showing that. Then it specifically says, and every 180 days thereafter. So that means that order is going to stay in place until it is revised, it's revoked, it's rescinded, or it's terminated. It has not been either one of those. It's still active. Now, once people realize that is where Congress and the president declares war, and Congress bipartisan passed that with Donald Trump, they approved of that. Okay. So when you realize that, then you get down to a warfare situation. I've just recently started using a lot more Q posts for people because a lot more people are now seeing the legislation is there. It is intact. It does say what it says. And Q, what people don't realize about Q is an intelligence community. It's not one person. It's an intelligence community of military personnel. They may never be known. They may never make these people known. I don't know what they're in communities. You know, we've been warning people. I mean, but how many people can wake up and how many people are going to listen? How many people have been told and still won't listen? I mean, there's a lot of categories you could go to try to understand Maui. And it's like SG and I were talking about that. Well, I don't know what Maui is going to be yet. I believe what Q said. Q says sometimes we'll have to light a fire to smoke out the bad guys. All right. Now, Hawaii's been a hotbed for a while. Hawaii's been a portal because it's an island, a bunch of islands, and it's a hotbed in the sense of trafficking and all different kinds of things like that. I mean, those still exist, and that's what this war is really about: is trafficking, human trafficking, drug trafficking, child trafficking, sex trafficking, and the money behind that. See, all that money funded a lot of these global elitists.
So you're saying that maybe this is a strategic plan, you know, to border up Maui because there's a lot of corruption there in Hawaii, and to conceal, to trap some of the deep staters in there to do some investigation. But really, from the front optics, they're making it look like it's climate change wildfires, so they could wake up the public at the same time. So they're killing two birds in one stone. Is that what you're saying? Possibly.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, and I have to say stuff like that because sometimes innocent people will get caught in there. And that's the part where you have to try to show people that you may have to save 1 million people and lose 1,000 versus losing and saving 1,000. There's some things that are just unfortunate.
Yeah. Sorry, the signal is a little bit bad, Derek.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, just a little bit bad. But it's good. You're coming back and forth. Okay, so are you saying also, because when you're saying that Biden signs an order and you're saying that's an order below another order and another order, the original order, the trail from the top, you're saying Donald Trump signed it. So does that mean that from a legal military perspective, this means that Joe Biden undercover, because we know that's not really Joe Biden, but that this fake Joe Biden that we see as so-called president right now is really working for the military and for Donald Trump?
No, that's not what I'm saying either. What I'm saying is they're using Joe Biden, the corrupt Joe Biden. He's been corrupt a lot for his whole life. So many people that the wind's blowing, that may be what it is causing the static. But so many people
you're cutting out.
Term memories for whatever reason.
Yeah, sorry,
right?
You cut out there. You go back a little bit. Yeah, sorry.
Well, the wind's blowing. I think that's what it is. But basically, so many people have short-term memories when it comes to things like this. Joe Biden has always been, he's on video way back in the 70s talking about if he had to become a prostitute or all kinds of stuff. He says all kinds of stuff that is so way out there. And so plagiarism, he's known for plagiarism. He's known for taking people's credit, work and credit. And that's what they're doing right now is they're making him do things that what Donald Trump would have done as a visual president. They're making him do things where his own party can't come back at him and go, what are you doing that for? That's not what they stand for. For example, a few weeks ago, he was quote unquote in the Grand Canyon having a speech. And he said, I'm signing an executive order to ban uranium mining companies. Well, guess who had the largest scandal of all time? And Donald Trump called it the Russia scandal. It was Uranium One, the Clinton Foundation sold to Russia for $145 million. Okay. So we know Biden and Clinton are tied together. They love each other. They praise each other. So why is Biden at the Grand Canyon telling everybody we're going to sign an executive order to ban uranium mining companies for coming in here? That's an optic for everybody. His people, if this was a real presidency, his people should be going, don't say that. Whoa, what are you doing? Right? Because that's going to expose the uranium scandal. So all this stuff is setting up a grand finale of an exposure of all this stuff. It is. I don't know how much they're going to cover, but they're going to cover a lot of that. So no, that order in the War Powers Resolution Act on a military side, military is separate from the federal government. And the beauty of that is the Military Justice Act of 2016 was signed by Barack Obama in 2016. And it was bipartisan passed in the 2017 National Defense Authorization Act, which is the defense budget for all military. Mm-hmm. But it was clarified by the Supreme Court with Ginsburg on there, not Donald Trump's Supreme Court. All the left say that Donald Trump's going to stack the Supreme Court. No, this act was clarified and signed in 2016 by the Supreme Court then and by Barack Obama then. Now, it didn't pass, meaning it didn't go through legislation until the 2017 National Defense Authorization Act, which is cool with this too. It shows it was signed before the military occupancy. It was signed before the continuity of government, and then it was passed under the military occupancy and under the continuity of government. But that act is the most, for our history in America, and especially military history, is the most important since the Declaration of Independence because it did three things. It clarifies everything we're talking about right now. The United States Supreme Court, and Barack Obama signed this, clarified that military courts and laws are separate from civil courts and laws. Mm-hmm. It clarified the president and commander-in-chief are two separate roles, two separate duties, two separate obligations, which also means two separate laws. Then they clarified that the commander-in-chief is separate from the federal government. what they're doing is they separated Article 2 of the Constitution from Article 3 of the Constitution. They're saying that the Constitution's not cohesive in the sense of it don't supposed to all run together. It's saying Article 2 is an article in itself, and Article 3 is an article in itself. And because we have a president and then we have Congress, they have roles and duties. But then, see, our founders back in the day went in there and put a commander-in-chief role, and it has a certain clause in there that the president is the commander-in-chief of the Army and the Navy. Well, also in the Constitution, it says that Congress, like I said earlier, is supposed to set the rules and regulations of the Army and the Navy. Well, they've done that in years past. So when you hear President Trump say, if they're going to investigate me, they got to investigate every president before me immediately. Well, that's what he's talking about, because he's going by what legislation and Congresses in the past and the president in the past has put into place already. So it's like he's like, I'm doing what he's saying. Hey, you don't have to like it, but this is what they passed, not us. So you got to take that up with legislation. So what Biden is a continuity of government. That little memorandum is up under all of these other orders already. See, the foundational order is that order in December the 20th, 2019. That's the foundational order. So everything under that is a military occupancy and a continuity of government, depending on if it's federal or military. So it's absolutely not showing that Biden is working like that. It's showing that they're using him as it's an old World War II tactic.
Yeah, but who is he really? Because he is different to the old Joe Biden that we know. We can tell by the earlobes that detached. I mean, but seriously, who really is he? Is he an actor? Who is he?
Well, yeah, you would have had to have an actor get up there and play that role, because if that was the real Joe Biden may squeal like a pig when he got on TV. Let's say that you set up this sting operation with the real person. The real person gets on national TV. He may go, this is all a plan. They're taking this over. So they take him out and they put a guy in there that's going to say everything they want him to say and need him to say, because this is a bigger operation. And when it's all said and done, it's like President Trump says all the time. I mean, this was never just about President Trump from the standpoint of President Trump and presidency, but because he's the face the military chose to use to bankrupt the corporation, he is. But it's like he says about everything else that, well, you're going to be happy in the end. He's talking to everybody. He also says that all the haters and trolls have no idea that what we're doing is going to make everybody's lives greater, right? Because it's a deep state clean out around the world. It's like we were talking the other day, and SG was saying, hey, if you think this was just about the District of Columbia, you've got another thing coming. This is a deep state clean out around the world. Now, even people like me, I don't know who all worked for the Rockefellers. I don't know who all worked for the Clintons. I don't know those, but people who have been in military intelligence communities for years, people who have been in those positions for years, they know who they are. So that's why it had to look like this. And everybody else, I'm 40 years old. So if God allows me to live, this is happening. This is what legislation shows. And the military flying around. I mean, we have so many aircraft here every day from other countries. Their aircraft, not their soldiers. Yeah, we've trained soldiers before, but we don't bring their aircraft here and have their aircraft at regional and municipal airports in the middle of nowhere in states. That ain't how the military works, ladies and gentlemen. If anything, if we did bring their aircraft here, it would be on our bases. But we have aircraft from other countries at municipal and regional airports stationed there in the middle of nowhere. That ain't how the military works. That is an operation.
Right. Excellent. So absolutely. I mean, Donald Trump has recently said that we shall not comply if there's, they're trying to push for a new lockdown. They're saying there's a new strain. It's coming back. And this is election interference. What do you think? I mean, are there really deep staters doing this? Or do you think this is what's going on?
No, they're still trying to wake up the people in America. It's a lot more Americans than it is anywhere. And I'll pick on my own people because I get more mail and email from people all over the world that are fully awake, know what's going on. We have a lot of cognitive dissonance in this nation. When people, data shows 68 to 75% of Americans cannot even name the three branches of government. So they just name them. Don't even tell us what they do. So when you have that, they're definitely not going to know the Military War Powers Resolution Act. They're not going to know the Defense Production Act. They're not going to know all these, so much stuff.
Absolutely. Okay.
So the way I see it is that there's two things going on. There's those of us who know legislation, laws, and orders, but also critical thinking, strategic thinking, and can put these pieces of the puzzle together and know that, wow, this is the greatest freaking operation known to man. Then there's those who are asleep in America that had to see everything done by law and order on paper, whether they know what the law and order says, whether they know what it means or not. They have to see that played out in order for it to be a complete package. And no one can say at the end that, oh, well, there was a loophole back here. You guys did this, this, and this back here. There won't be any loopholes when this is done. They will have done everything by local level government, state level government, federal government, and there won't be any loopholes in there. So what Donald Trump is doing, he's playing the role of, hey, people, this is election interference. Why would you want someone who has 11 million documents of no typos or no punctuation, no grammar? 11 million pages of his taxes and his personal life, 11 million pages, and it's clean as a record. So, I could put my life probably on 2 pages. All right. So, and I would have a clean record. 11 million pages, and we still have people out there trying to judge a man. So all that stuff, he's trying to wake up as many people as he can. As he said before, we need people, I think people are getting tired and fatigued and exhausted. They keep hearing what's coming, and it don't ever come on their time schedule. But what I'm trying to get people on is that this is the military's time schedule. There's a clean out of the world. All right. It's the military's time schedule, and you're not on that. And so that's why I'm trying to tell people to take a chill pill, but it is happening, but it's a clean out of the world, and there's ways to get involved. And what Trump's trying to do are get people to know their individual rights, individual responsibilities. And it is true about, this is why in 2019, they had all the My Body, My Choice people go out real heavy, the most they've ever done before with all the suits on. They had these people do this on purpose because a lot of people got out there and marched for that. They felt like that was all the people who believe My Body, My Choice. But then in 2020, it was the reverse cycle. And then you have the same type people now. It's typically liberals. If we got to pick on a certain portion, it's typically the liberals who are the My Body, My Choice. All right. Well, the same group of people, a lot of them were the ones telling me and you that if I didn't put on a mask, that I was violating their right. So it's kind of like saying, Nick, if you don't take your vitamins this morning, if I take mine ain't going to work if you don't take yours. That's the most asinine thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yep.
So it's trying to get people to go, look, believe in what you believe in, stand on what you believe in, no matter what that is. But some of that stuff has no right, no place in federal government. The federal government shouldn't tell you or I what we should do with our body, no matter what. Abortion is evil and all that. Okay, then believe that. But it still shouldn't be a federal government issue at any capacity. It shouldn't ever be a case where I got to pay for it, I don't have to pay for it, or this person has to pay for it, I don't. That was never supposed to be part of the federal government. That's supposed to be a part of good versus evil. And if you can find someone to do something, then do it. All right. If you can live with yourself. So what we are in is that we have identity anymore. And we're trying to get people just to get back to the basics of the identity right now. And here's how legislation works on local level, state level, government level, federal government. And Donald Trump's trying to wake up people that way. But at what point do people realize their individual responsibility? I can't make you do anything. You can't make me do anything. So at what point do I, sitting in my realm, go, all right, I need to know this, 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 and this. I need to do this, 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 and this. And America is still geared around sports and hobbies and things of that nature. We still have so many people who are in their little world, in their little bubble, and they don't want to be rattled from it. And they don't want to get out of that bubble and go, you know what? A football game can always be around, but right now I need to serve my country. And you don't have to do so.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this. Derek. Do you really think the elections will go forward? Because obviously March the 4th as well, Trump has a hearing for the J6. And I've got a feeling the election fraud of 2020 is going to come out. What do you think about this? Do you think something is going to happen that's going to stop this upcoming election?
Well, there could be, and that's always going to be the speculation, because Executive Order 13848 is due in just 13 days. So, and it's been extended twice, which for all those out there that's hearing that for the first time, it would make no sense why Joe Biden would extend an executive order with a national emergency for election interference 2 years in a row. That makes no sense. It also has a key line in there that cancels out mine and your vote, or mine and every American vote. And it also cancels out what happened on J6 2.5 years before it happened. There's a line in there that specifically shows that. And people can see that on all my other breakdowns. But the coolest thing about March the 4th is this. So there's two things about that. The first thing we'll go to is the elections. There's very much proof, once people realize how the military operates by laws and orders of our own, and federals over here, War Manual is one of them, and it's timing of when it came out. It came out 4 days before Donald Trump rolled down the escalator to announce his candidacy. That law war manual, if you will, if you want to call it for lay to understand what its importance is, it would be the Constitution of the military, if you will. All right, it's 1,254 pages. And it takes the Lieber Code of 1863, the Hague Conventions, Geneva Conventions, and the Nuremberg Trials and combines them. It also took the law war manuals from the United Kingdom, Germany, Australia, and Canada, and took the strengths of those and combined them too and put it into a new manual. All right, so it's very strengthened based on multiple times in our history of what took place that was unfortunate in our past, but we learned from it, and they put that, military and federal lawyers, put that in this new law war manual. That's one key thing. Then there's a couple of things that showed that the military is in complete control of our elections of 2018, Since everybody likes to think about the presidential election being stolen, it wasn't just stolen from a ballot box standpoint. That's why Executive Order 13848 is so important. That order trapped all governors of states, secretary of states, attorney generals, and also judges and lawyers who don't uphold the new law in place that Donald Trump and the military put in place. And to prove it, to take it one step further, that the military is in control, meaning at even voter precincts out there, a 4-star general on November the 3rd, 2020 now. So Donald Trump's your president. He's your commander in chief. And there's these federal continuity directives that show we're in a continuity of government. When those show that, that means we're in a military occupancy, because there's two different powers in the U.S., military, federal government. Federal government's under continuity of government. Military steps up. All right. So 4-star general tweets on Twitter. It's still up. You're going to have to scroll a while to find it. But November the 3rd, 2020, 4-star general Nakasone. All right. He tweets, as tens of millions head to the polls today, he's speaking as a 4-star general, so we means the military. We have our joint partners around the world, along with the United States Cyber Command and the United States National Security Agency, watching as if we hope we learn what we learned from 2018. Mm-hmm. So he's not only telling you the military is looking at these elections in 2020, he was telling you in 2018 they did the same thing. Then you fast forward to 2022, Fox News, the big Fox News, they put out an article on November the 4th, that the National Guard were going to be at voter precincts all across the country. All right. That was on November the 4th. So if you go to chapter 11.4 in the Law of War Manual, guess what it reads? It reads about these very things. All right. So what are the odds of that? There aren't. That was all planned. Well, then you fast forward. President Trump just had an interview recently. He was talking to a guy and he said, well, I don't know. I think 2024 may be bigger than 2020. I'm not sure. Maybe a little bigger. And the guy goes, oh, sir, yes, sir, it's going to be a lot bigger. He said, well, yeah, because it won't be traditional. And then he diverted real quick.
Wow.
He goes, yeah, because it won't be traditional. And then he quickly, so it'd be like he was going this way with a topic, and he quickly changed the subject and went somewhere else with it. Well, it won't be traditional, and then da-da-da-da, something else, right? Well, that's telling any military personnel that does know the laws and orders, or anybody out there that does and is following the laws and orders, it won't be traditional. Now, will it be an actual election where everybody goes, or will it be what he's talking about, same-day voting, voter ID? I don't know. But the March 4th correlation is really cool because of this. The original inauguration date in United States history is March the 4th.
Yeah.
And the last president to be elected on March the 4th was Franklin D. Roosevelt. And every single law and order that Donald Trump has used heavily, and a lot of his comms throughout this have dated to World War II, which is also what Biden is a Commonwealth Act number 671, where in World War II, Franklin D. Roosevelt in the United States put a puppet in place to meet the media and the press in the Philippines while the actual president was in exile in full control of his military. All right. So it's a correlation there. It's not the same exact setup. And President Trump said that in March 2020 as well. He said, same scenario, different war. Mm-hmm. All right. So same scenario meant all the same laws and orders and same things that applied. And he said same scenario as World War II. He specifically said that in March 2020. So March the 4th is the original inauguration day. There's 19 defendants. Okay, well, 19. The last president of the United States of America was Ulysses S. Grant. Then he signed us under the federal corporation. So technically, Donald John Trump was your 19th president of the United States of America. All right. So there's a 19 correlation, 19 defendants. And then also the night he announced for 2024, guess what was flying at Mar-a-Lago? 19 U.S. flags. Wow, all right? So there's a lot of correlations there, and people may think that's far-fetched.
So 19th president of the Constitution.
That's correct. Of the Republic.
Of the Republic, not the Bank of corporate America, which has been bankrupt.
And you can find this, ladies and gentlemen, right now still out there. I don't know how they're probably going to go in and delete a lot of this stuff down the road, maybe. That's what they would have to do. But currently, right now, you can go to 28 United States Code 3002, and it shows in legislation, it shows in our codes, United States Federal Corporation. It defines it there.
Absolutely.
The other cool thing, if I can, really fast, is his comm on Twitter that he did. So, he said he puts up a post on Truth Social, shot heard around the world, and he put mug in parentheses. That was done on purpose, ladies and gentlemen. He didn't put mug shot without parentheses. He put mug in parentheses and put shot heard around the world. You go over to Q, shot heard around the world. Boom. And it talks about Twitter. All right. There's a couple Twitter correlations here. And I like to do it because the background right here, you can't see it, obviously, but right across this hill over here, about 10 miles, is the hometown of William Barrett Travis, who was the hero of the Alamo, who was a lieutenant colonel of the Alamo in Texas, the famous Battle of the Alamo. All right. President Trump's last tweet on Twitter was January the 8th, 2021. His last speech in public outside of D.C. was at Alamo, Texas. And it wasn't at the Alamo where the little fort is, but it was at Alamo, Texas, because it was named after the Alamo. That's your optic. And then the border wall was in the background. Okay, you got to know a little bit about Texas history. Texas history, the Alamo, William Barrett Travis, Alabama boy, hero of the Alamo, Texas. Oh, Alabama boy, though. He was 26 years old. Bowie got sick. He took command. He's the one who drew a line in the sand. So there's your border wall, line in the sand. He drew a line. He told his men, if you stand on this side of the line with me, you're going to die right here. We're surrounded. We're not getting out of here alive. We don't have enough ammo. He wrote a letter called Victory or Death, and he sent it Pony Express. Now, think about that back in 1836. Now, a Pony Express, a horse from San Antonio, Texas to Washington, D.C. was a long ride on a horse. They weren't going to get any kind of supply back up in time being surrounded, all right, unless the Mexicans would have retreated, and they didn't do that, okay? So his last words to his men were in Spanish, where the Spanish could hear him yelling it to his boys. No rendirse, muchachos. He was saying, don't surrender, boys. Don't surrender. All right? Because he knew when they died, they were going to go down in history. So they had no other option except for to throw traitors. That was considered a traitor back then. That was considered a coward back then. They weren't going down in history like that. So the correlation with that is the last tweet. He tweeted the other day his mode shot.
Yeah.
When you go over and see the shot heard around the world.
Can you back up a little bit because you cut out there? You went quiet. Oh yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So the correlation with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. The correlation is a bunch of things, but he put his quote unquote mud shot on Twitter. And this is where you have to be. This is where you can learn. You don't have, once again, you don't have to have any kind of education. You just got to be able to use this right here. This is how you see all the optics and comms. But it said election interference, never surrender, DonaldJTrump.com. That spells END, E-N-D. All right. When you go over to Twitter, you type in Twitter. Yeah. It says there is no step 5, END, all caps, Q. All right. And it also is a separate Q post for the shot heard around the world. All right. Those both came out the same day. Trump truth those. All right. Well, the correlation was that never surrender, don't surrender, the Alamo. Look at the key dates around that. And then also all these Q alerts, they were written in 2017, 2018, 2019. So they're way back here. And then when you look at that very last one about the end, there's no step 5. Well, there's been 4 indictments.
Wow. Yeah.
And if there's a 5th indictment, then it was wrong. And it's okay to be wrong out there. But so far, there may not be any 5th indictment.
Absolutely.
And if that's the case.
Yeah. The Q said, I think, of boom, 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 as in he needs one more indictment, which is the 4th, to win the election. And was that winning the 2021 election fraud, exposing it? It could be that. That's the question mark that I have, you know?
Well, that's it. It is going to come out, and it's going to be the truth's going to be shown that he landslided 2020, and he's going to landslide 2024. So,
wow,
yeah.
Derek Johnson, it's been an absolute honor to have you. Thank you so much for sharing everything with us today. It was very, very interesting. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish?
Yeah, I encourage people out there that if you're struggling with this, if it's a lot of information, then, don't get to a point of frustration or getting mad or angry or exhausted. Just know that we're all a part of this as well. And that's what Nick and I do. We study this stuff. We bring it to you. It is tangibly there where you can go look it up. And sometimes you may need more repetition than others, but it's all there. And I encourage people to keep fighting. This is a world operation. It's not just a United States thing. We're all in this together, and have fun with it. Life and death is a part of it. We're all going to die, but we all were given a purpose here. And I think if people find their purpose, then they'll start enjoying this world operation a lot more.
Absolutely. Well, Derek, thank you very much. And we'll speak again very soon. You take care and God bless you. Bye-bye.
Sounds good. I appreciate it. Good to be here.